Mitchells versus the Machines. And there's a lot of directions we can take this thing. This is the new Netflix animated movie directed by Mark Ryonda and written by Jeff Rowe. But the two most common names who have been attached to this because they're executive producers on the project are Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, obviously. The men responsible for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, the Lego movie, and 21 Jump Street too, but they've really dabbled in and succeeded recently. They are probably the kingmakers right now. As far as names are concerned,
yeah,
they are in the top 3 of like elite echelon of names. They're up there with like Pete Docter, and I know he's kind of sort of doing stuff, but not really. Hayao Miyazaki, I know he's kind of back in some ways, but those are like the elite class of animators at the moment, and animative like thinkers, I would say, are Lord Miller, Pete Docter, and Miyazaki. And Lord and Miller, man, I tell you, they're killing the game with another one over here in the Mitchells versus the Machines. Making an animated movie heavily reliant on internet humor is essentially operating on a field of landmines.
yes,
But thankfully, in the hands of Lord and Miller, this material is in very good company, because it is delicately handled too, not only by them, but of course the writers Ryonda and Rowe, as I mentioned, who make this movie so dazzling and so much fun and smart. It's not interested. This is the first thing too that I'll say, and then I'll throw it over to you. This is kind of where I'll start. You could take this wherever or go off on your own. The movie was originally called Connected, and that title still kind of surfaces around a little bit, but this movie, Blessed So, is not interested in lecturing us on our over-reliance on technology. It's not interested in being kind of a lecture and a finger-wagging statement about how we spend too much time looking at screens and not around the people, you know, who care about us and stuff. I'm not saying that's a facile point, but it doesn't have to be the crux of every movie made about technology, and that's not what this is. This movie's more interested in creating the next lovable, ordinary family with a lot of charisma. And dare I say, I know, Dom, you were questioning, you were like, yeah, that's a little bit of a hot take, what you said. The Mitchells are the new modernized Incredibles. And I don't think I'm off base there. You don't have to directly respond to that right away, but go your own way a little bit about the Mitchells versus the Machines in your eyes.
yeah. Okay, I'll go my own way with it, but yeah, dude, this I did not know a thing about this movie. Really going into it at all. I was like, okay, what kind of budget DreamWorks low tier-esque am I gonna watch here? Just didn't watch it, didn't know literally a thing about this movie going into it. After that opening montage, that intro, you know how it's like you listen to the first track of an album, right? And it's like, this is gonna be good. This is gonna be a good time, dude. That's exactly the revelation that I had watching this movie unfold. And in fact, like in the first 20 minutes, I was thinking to myself, damn, I have no idea who made this. It's like 2 people, or at least two brands are have to be attached to, or rather 2 options. Either Lord and Miller, based off of what I saw of the Into the Spider-Verse, or Gareth Edwards from Scott Pilgrim versus the World, or somehow he had a hand in this, like in some way or the other. And I wish Joe was here because we could go off on Scott Pilgrim for like another hour. But regardless,
of course,
yeah, dude, this movie is. I was gonna say this movie's a revelation. No, man, this movie is freaking insane, but in a very measured control. You don't think it when you're watching it, because it's very chaotic, very eclectic. It overwhelms you, but in a very, very precise and very purposeful way. It's very easy to dismiss this if you just watch like a YouTube clip, or maybe you saw a trailer, maybe you watched like it for like 5 minutes in the middle or something. Very easy to dismiss this as like, oh, so random, or it's like haha internet humor, particularly with some of the gags. I can't wait for some of these clips to show up in like 30-second YouTube videos where it's like that one joke where like it's the monkey and it's like haha, and like someone will look at this and be like, they'll type up, man, this movie must be horrible. It's like, no man, this movie has got so much going for it, particularly with it, yes, with its family, with its animation and with its rhythm. My God, this movie has so much. It is a masterclass in comedic rhythm and timing. It feels very modern in that sense, but Still, Lord Miller, at least in this movie, and we keep saying Lord Miller, Lord Miller, Lord Miller, but let's not forget the
Yeah,
actual.
I try to be careful with that even in my review.
Yeah,
Mark Ryonda and Jeff Rowe, give the boys credit.
exactly. Mike Ryonda, who is not only the voice of the little brother, but also this is his directorial debut
Yep.
in a film. I believe he directed. He was a creative director for, or at least had an involvement for 4 years with the show Gravity Falls, which I have not really watched Gravity Falls, but having watched some episodes and I'm a little bit familiar with it. I am not surprised at all that he was attached, that he led this project. So that makes perfect sense, 100%. But dude, two things that really stuck out to me, and I'll pass it on to you, Steve, is that one, rhythm. My God, it is very precise, very measured here in its jokes. Maybe some slip ups we can talk about later on when we get into some criticisms, but by and large, this movie kept going and it kept up with the punches. Second, every frame of painting. You hear that phrase from film students all the time. My God. I was actually like, I was tempted to go back, like watching this movie. I bet this could actually meet the every frame of a painting challenge. Not literally, like every single like millisecond, but my God, there are moments here where it's like, this is freaking. I have an image coming up here right now where it is. It's got like 4 different art styles, and it all blends together, and it's beautiful. And even the most CG and detailed part, or the most CG and the most 3D aspect of it, still has beautiful fine details. Again, you can't see this, but on the hand of the main character here, it's like, man, it's so soft and so simple, but also you can see the crevices on her hands, and you don't
texturing.
Exactly. And you don't obviously consciously think of this every moment by moment, unless you're someone like us who like pays attention to it, or even an animator. Like, we're not animators, but if you're an animator, you pick up on that stuff, but you absolutely feel it. You don't take a sense for all these technical details, but you don't like consciously pick up on it, but you absolutely feel it. And in terms of feeling, Mitchell's versus the Machines is just an absolute. It's a welcome barrage on the senses. Usually, when you hear like an assault on the senses, it's a bad thing. But this is like a full body massage, full on spa treatment, facial, foot rub, everything, and it is, after a hard week, this is what you need if you're into some good animation here. Steve?
100%. This was a great thing to watch on a Friday night when I did, just as a good like cap of the week, and just a fun movie. I think, my first big complaint is that we didn't get to see this in the theater, because this was made to be a big screen movie. And I remember them talking about this movie coming to theaters. And unfortunately it didn't. It got sold to Netflix. But I guess this just means for all the parents out there, this is the kind of thing, like, I tell parents, or like friends of mine that have kids, or just older people I know that like are looking for movie recommendations with kids. I say, this is the type of movie too that your kids are going to want to watch again, and you will happily let them, because you will probably want to watch it again yourself. Oh, yeah. It is that good. And going on, continuing on with the animation style, it's the most impressive really since Into the Spider-Verse, I guess you could say, which is fittingly another brainchild of Lord and Miller. That movie used a lot of like urban street art and noir style comic books as its primary influence.
And so many seemingly conflicting but beautifully blended animation styles.
100%. And this movie, Mitchell's versus the Machines, it feels like one of those like middle school centric graphic novels come to life. And I can't really I don't want to say like Diary of a Wimpy Kid, because there's not a lot to that series, or there's not a lot to that cartoon, that strip. But like, you know what I'm talking about? Like, I think there's like that book, that Middle School, The Worst Years of My Life, or something like that. There's a handful. I remember there's this one series, I think it was called Sparky back in the day, or Shredder Man was another one. I know that was actually a book, but like the art style of that. Like it's got on-screen text, it's got like hand-drawn pop-up effects. The style of book where it's like writing in the margins, very self-referential,
Yeah.
very playful, very much like sitting in your bedroom making your own comic and drawing everything out. Because this movie too, just when you think CGI animation can't impress you anymore, this movie at times, and I have every reason to believe they did use that in a lot of different spots of this, especially for some of those like pop-up effects. This movie really is one of the few, if not only, CGI animated movies, which is redundant to say because that's what it is in the modern day.
Right.
But this really gives off the appearance of being hand-drawn quite frequently. And that's beautiful. As a lost art of like hand-drawn animation, at least in a macro mainstream sense, is to see something like this come out that pays homage to that in a way and gives you this kind of almost classical look while being very modern. It's pretty and it's beautiful. And it's a gorgeous production. I mean, we have a front runner now. Luca by Pixar's Luca looks really good, especially narratively. But I mean, this could be a front runner for some animated awards by the beginning of next year or so.
Dude, I cannot wait to watch Luca and see it go up against this movie, which I hate to go into a movie wanting to spar, but it's like, damn, this movie really, well, again, it just blindsided me. It came out of nowhere. So it's like when it comes out and comes out of the from the far left lane, does a Chicago sweep all the way to the exit, right? And it's like, oh god damn, okay. It is such a welcome, to use the cliche, breath of fresh air. Like it's really like it almost looks claymation. You got the hand drawn stuff going. You got the comic book aspect. You got the high schooler who's bored in the third period biology, and they're just scribbling to make their lives go forward just a little bit more. And thinking about just how on the surface level, there's so many things about this movie that is so easy to write off. I kind of made this point a little bit earlier, but I really want to emphasize it. Like it has an all-star cast. It really does, and so particularly in some of the minor roles as well that really come to shine. Yep. But when you're first looking at the cast, you're thinking, oh my god, is this going to be one of those movies where they just stuff it full of comedians and SNL?
It makes you a little nervous. It makes you a little nervous because you have Abby Jacobson, who voices Katie. You got Danny McBride, Maya Rudolph. Maya Rudolph's just a token mom. Yeah. Danny McBride and Maya Rudolph as the parents. Danny McBride is very subtly good here. Is very subtly good and soulful. And Mark Ryonda as Aaron, who I really love. I think I would tolerate an Aaron spinoff. That kid was cool.
Mike Rionda's voice acting. Not the character, but the voice acting, it had to grow on me a little bit, but by the end I was cool with it because I was like, I don't know if they're pitching that. Maybe they could have pitched it a bit more because it's like this sounds a little too adult for that kid.
It's a little low. It's a little low given that kid is so young.
Or just
but no, you ride with it. You ride with it, but no, they could have maybe E.G. Daly'd his voice a little bit there.
Again, took me out of it for a bit, but then I gave in and it was all good. But again, contrasting with Abby Jacobson, where I was like, yeah, is this kid like 16? No, it's a full grown adult. Okay, cool. That is impressive, very impressive voice work. But in any case, you think there's a lot of things here on the surface level, like a really all-star cast, almost a 2 all-star cast. It's got some pop songs. Where it's like, okay, is this going to be one of those films where it's like in the first minute, it's like, oh, they're playing the latest pop hit, and it's like, oh. But then you realize the big pop hit that has actual emotional weight in the plot and the story is one that came out like 12 years ago. It was Rihanna, who's the actual artist who made the track, and Rihanna was featured on it. It sampled the Maya Who, the Numa Numa guy.
Live Your Life. I believe it's T.I. I believe it's T.I.
Thank you. Yes, T.I. with Live Your Life. Everyone's like, oh, okay.
I'm a big T.I. fan, just an FYI.
And it's like, okay, this uses the pop song, like, and you think it's stereotypical, but no, this came out like 12 years ago. So it's like, now it actually just corresponds with what the story is actually doing. And it's a banger. So yeah, there you go. It's vintage. It is now vintage because of it. And yeah, you think, the wacky, my family's crazy. It's a very basic plot. or I should not say plot, but a very basic message. There you go. Very basic message of like, yeah, my family's weird and I'm gonna go off to college, and my dad and I, we have a, not the best relationship, but we find love, we find to love each other again. And it's like, okay, cool, same old bag. But my God, when you pair that with an insane rhythm, beautiful artwork, those old themes can work absolutely perfectly. And it is, again, just how much I can't emphasize how much of a surprise that this was.